Geometry Dash is a very frustrating game, especially when you're attempting levels of the Demon difficulty, the hardest in the game. For most of us, the nature of the game combined with the amount of time it typically takes to get good prevents us from being one of the best players. But there's one player in the decade-long history of Geometry Dash who found it easy to reach the top. He was known for finding everything he did in the game easy, whether it was making widely influential levels you've probably heard of, or even beating the hardest levels other people made. Today we're going to be taking a look at the run Zobros had at the top of the game as both a player and creator. The first publicly available video on the Zobros channel is Geometry Dash Ascend Very Hard Demon by G-Boy. The one thing that should immediately jump out at you is the usage of a demon difficulty rating in the title. These would become a hallmark of Zobros completions and would prominently feature in almost every title on his channel. In the 1.9 update when he picked up the game, only one demon difficulty with the hard demon face existed. The demon difficulty classifications he had popularized would end up being added officially in the 2.1 update a few years from this point. This upload would not end up being a solo act either, as this would mark the beginning of him grinding most of the demons that were available at the time. His next 6 videos would all be demons he beat in the same day, consisting of Hello Demon, Lake of Fire, Ragnarok, Spiral Dynamics, Rat Step, and Back on Mountain, the latter of which was considered quite a challenge to players at the time. Its creator, Majako, was well known for making many challenging levels that were scary to attempt even compared to other demon levels. This would only be the beginning of his feats as a player though. His pace would keep at the same level and he would end up overcoming many classic levels you may have heard of like Golden Haze, Ditch Machine, and a whole heap of others he would call easy and medium demons. Unbeknownst to us though, his potentially most important upload would be on the way. Update 1.9 introduced the Wave Game mode to Geometry Dash. The mechanic it uses is pretty simple as it raises in a 45-degree increment as you click, and falls at the same rate as you release. It was still early into the update and players were still not used to it, causing levels that prominently featured it like the Easy Demon Decode to be considered among the hardest challenges out there. Nobody had truly made a level that focused on the new game mode yet, but that would all change on January 17th, 2015 when Zobros uploaded his first demon level, 9 Circles. This level used the wave for the majority of its runtime along with a pulsing color effect that was made with the 4 color channels the game had at the time. He couldn't have possibly known it, but in making this level he inadvertently created a whole new subgenre of levels, and the simple flashing wave effect would end up resurfacing in level after level until it completely took over as a trend. Here's a short roundup of some of the hundreds of levels that spawned out of this one creation that Zobros would call not very good in his own description. The level would go on to receive over 45 million downloads and 2.6 million likes, making it the 4th most popular demon in the entire game, and it would become a mainstay of rising players' progressions. Even in the present day, we still see many levels that harken back to this one as a base to build off of, released and rated. Zobros had accidentally created one of the most influential levels in the game's history as his first original level. The release of 9 Circles would just be any other day for him, however, and he would keep up the relentless demon grinding pace. He was barreling towards his 300th demon and he felt like he had to do something special to commemorate the achievement. The level he would set his sights on was a challenge by the game's #1 player at the time, Cyclic. It might just look like an old mess now, but at the time it was considered to be one of the hardest demons in the game and something not a lot of players would even try. The level had some of the most brutal and unsight-readable gameplay in any demon. He would end up pulling through though, and with that he had reached the insane milestone of beating 300 of the levels in the game's highest difficulty tier. Zobros would end up coining the term Insane Demon in his title for it. Despite Ice Cream being the hardest thing he'd beaten at the time, he was very nonchalant about it, just writing one short line in the description saying it's his 300th demon and nothing else. That very nonchalant attitude he often showed towards the things he did in the game would lead to a litany of memes and players going around saying things like easy for Zobros to every level. To keep a reminder of how impressive all the stuff we've gone over was, he did dozens of demon levels, one of the hardest ones in existence, and created the most widely influential creating trend in the game within 2 months of starting up his YouTube channel. Although he had turned his focus back to playing for the time being, he was not done making his own original levels yet. His next creation would be one of the hardest things ever legitimately verified, and it would be the timing-focused demon Acropolis. The level exclusively used 0.5 times speed to make it so each input would be very precise. Acropolis would also be one of the first times Zobros acknowledged anything being at all difficult, saying it took 7 hours straight streaming to verify, and that it would be his hardest for a long time. Acropolis had a defined impact on high-level play and would lead to some inspired works of its own like El Dorado and Hatred. The most commendable thing about Acropolis is how well it still gets across the atmosphere it tries to set while only using the basic default objects that were available in the editor in 1.9. Even though much time has passed and many harder levels have come, you'll still be hard-pressed to find anybody who doesn't get nervous at the spike jumps before the last wave. Acropolis had proven to the wider community that Zobros was here to stay and wasn't just a one-hit wonder with the massive popularity of 9 Circles. Off the back of his verification of Acropolis, Zobros was able to take down some of the hardest levels other people had made, like Breakthrough by Heinz, Windy Landscape by Woogie, and doing an 86% run on Supersonic by Zentic Alpha. Most people who get good as a player or a creator tend to stick to their lane due to how much time and skill it takes to become good at either, so Zobros balancing them both at a high level was pretty unheard of. After these completions, he would release Forsaken Neon, a collab with the highly acclaimed creator Triaxis, where he did the gameplay and they did the decorations. Although it was very well made and pretty difficult, it didn't catch the community by storm like 9 Circles and Acropolis did. Nonetheless, relative to the average rated level, it's still massively popular. Soon after, he would release another of his most important videos in the form of the first practice run of Silent Clubstep. This first appearance of the now legendary Impossible Demon would end up gaining 900,000 views and start the whole chain of events that led to its verification by Paco in 2022. The level awed a community who was not used to seeing him remotely struggle on anything, nor take 974 attempts just to go through it in practice. This is the only time I've seen Zobros struggle on a level. Without his initial contribution, the level may never have risen to fame and infamy or had the staying power to have people trying to beat it for 7 long years. His next playing project would be another noteworthy one. In the time that Zobros was active, the demon list consisted of a GD forum thread and included several levels that had never been beaten with any actual proof. One of such levels was Alphabet X. Made by the same creator as the current-day list demon Silent Club, Play 1107696's second 1.6 level had remained a fairly unattempted challenge at the number 3 spot on the forum demon list, only behind Cataclysm and Ice Carbon Diablo X. Where others saw something they couldn't even attempt to beat, Zobros saw an opportunity. Maybe, just maybe, this level that nobody else dared to seriously play was possible to complete. There were a lot of challenges within the level to overcome, like tight ship corridors and confusing mazes that needed to be figured out with trial and error. On May 9th, 2015, he would become the first player to have ever provably done it with a recording on YouTube. Alphabet X earned the title of Insane Demon just like Ice Cream before it because of how difficult it is. And with that, the third hardest rated level had finally fallen to a legitimate player, bringing it from something that felt just out of reach to something we can actually do. In the time following Alphabet X, the trend of collaborations with multiple creators all passing around and building on the same level was in full swing, and Zobros would end up hosting his own. He would team up with Havoc, Orion, and Gearon to create one of his more underrated levels, Swing Squad. I say it's underrated despite the fact that nearly 800,000 players have downloaded the level, going to show just the scope his levels were on. Like his previous releases, this was another very challenging level for its time and still holds an Insane Demon rating 8 years on. His creating itch wouldn't be scratched with just Swing Squad, as he released another difficult level, Club Step Nightmares, just 2 weeks later. It was his own take on the main level Club Step. This level would again be one of the harder things put out during the 1.9 update. When Zobros published the level, odds were it would be very difficult for the average player. These levels were cool and all, but he would have one more trick up his sleeve. In July of 2015, 8-0 by Zobros and Etzer would hit the Geometry Dash servers. Before Etzer was getting into drama for scamming on TF2, he was in the good graces of the community, and seen as one of the best creators. 8-0 was a meeting of the best in both the playing and creating scenes and would become an immensely popular level. With 10 million downloads and 2 million YouTube views, this level was inescapable at its time of release. It was very loud and in your face with its bright neon colors and fast ship and UFO gameplay. It's still in many players' progression through the insane demon difficulty as one of the top 10 most downloaded ones, and a great way to practice its core game modes. People still remake this level to pay homage to it, as seen in levels like Ego by ZipXbox and Slato by SlayGD. By this point, the 1.9 update was reaching its end, and soon Geometry Dash would be revitalized with many new features for people to use. Zobros didn't just want to let it go without a good send-off, and that would result in an Ultimate Demon mix. He recreated parts of many of the update's most iconic levels, including Decode, Theory of Skrillex, and even Cataclysm by hand. This was before you could use Mega Hack to copy and paste a whole segment of a level in 5 seconds. As a final send-off to the update, it fit well, using Ultimate Destruction, the song Robtop almost used for the first main level but ended up not using. It would end up being the last major thing he did before Update 2.0 came. When Update 2.0 eventually did come, he uploaded the new main demon level Deadlock to the tune of 876,000 views. He'd also show off the codes you could input in the newly added vault for rewards, further bolstering his pull with the casual audience swarming in to try the new update. His first creation in the 2.0 update was Luminum, a predominantly yellow level that utilized many of the newly added features, like moving objects, green orbs, teleportation portals, and the brand new robot game mode that was like the cube but with a higher jumping range based on how long you hold the button for. In typical Zobros fashion, he would call it very easy despite it being an insane demon in actuality. It was one of the first uses of the now popular song Bass Night by Boom Kitty, which is used in many other rated demons now. Right after, he would drop a Q&A answers video that had some interesting tidbits, like him still considering Alphabet X his hardest demon beaten, his disinterest in beating Cataclysm despite its #1 demon status, and that he wanted the 9 circles trend he accidentally started to stop. He also uploaded a 52 to 100 run on Silent Club, which was a level considered impossible. The run didn't include the spam sections, which were by far the hardest parts of the level. It still did prove that it was possible to attempt the level though, and it would end up being verified many years later by Lukewalizer. The light he shined on the level helped keep it alive in the mind of the community. He beat some new challenges from the 2.0 update like Eldorado by Anubis, and even went back to his own levels to add in new secret coins for players to collect for taking a harder route. He would also upload a level of his that's an acquired taste in Love Baba. The first part is fairly normal, but Zobros' part is, well, yeah. It was and still is a very polarizing level, with some saying it wouldn't be rated if anybody else made it, and others trying to attach an artistic meaning to it or just seeing it as a funny level. This would end up being the last real level on his account. His next upload would be quite an important one, but for all the wrong reasons. This would put an end to one of the most prolific creating and playing careers the game had ever seen. The comments would be filled with an outpour of support from people across the entire community. I'm sorry, Zobros. We are all thankful that you had a great career while it lasted. I understand your reasons to quit. It makes total sense. If I were you personally, I would feel the same way. I wish you would return to GD someday, but if not, well, sadly, it's time to say goodbye. I will always love you, bro. Have a good life. I think that comment perfectly summarizes how the community felt towards him. He had been a constant presence throughout the past couple of years at that point, with 230 demon completions being uploaded to his channel and constant streams over on Twitch. He had gone beyond the scope of an average player and immortalized himself with his levels and the memes about him spreading far and wide. His quitting left a hole in the community that would be very hard if not impossible to fill. Before he left, he was able to hand his unfinished 9 Circles sequel aptly titled 9 Circle X to Viperin, who was able to have the level finished by himself and Rustam. That was the sole remaining loose end that needed to be tied up to come full circle back around to the level that started it all. And with that, Zobros was gone. In his 2-year-long run in Geometry Dash, he was able to popularize difficulties that would officially get added to the game, topple some of the hardest unbeaten challenges, and create a whole new categorization of level that is still in the limelight 8 years later. Despite being long gone from GD and its community, he was not done with gaming and streaming altogether. He still plays the game rolled out on Twitch from time to time under the name Noin. If that at all sounds interesting to you, I recommend you go check out his channel and I will link it in the description. Even if he has moved on from the game, his contributions to the community will live on for as long as the game itself does, and his legacy will never be forgotten.